Emilio, good to see you. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about last season. There's a lot to talk about from 2022, but I did notice on social media some shots of you already in the nets. Here we are at the end of November, looking ahead to 2023. So, what have you been doing already this close season? What's the schedule between now and the start of the next campaign?
Thanks for having me, Radders. I think October we had off as a squad. I think everyone just took time to go on a holiday or just refresh after a long and strenuous season. I think as soon as I got in from November, really start of November, that was when I started to pick up a bat again. 4 or 5 weeks without a cricket bat in my hand is a long time for me. So it was kind of just from there really. The first couple of weeks was brushing off cobwebs, kind of just getting the hands going, hand-eye coordination going. And then really it's only started to get more specific the last week or so. I've actually, over the weekend, wrote down notes and specific points as to what I want to work on over the winter, leading up to next year. So that's really this week, like I said, how it's going to get more specific training now. And I'm probably batting around 4 or 5 times a week at the minute without build-up.
And knowing you as I do, you won't want to leave anything to chance. And you said about making notes already. So have you got a pretty fair idea in terms of an organised schedule, homework diary, if you like, what you're going to be doing between now and the start of next season? Yeah,
you're right. I think for me, the biggest thing is I want, as long as I can control what I can control. And I've analysed last season. I've looked at how I've got out and all the ways I've got out, and when I've done well and when I've not done well. And I've written it all down and things that I can improve on, and how I'm going to improve it as well. Not just a shot, but how I'm going to improve that shot, what methods I want to do to improve it and why. I've got those written down, and I think that will really, those specific points will really help shape my winter as to how I want to, train and how I want to go about it. Because like next season, I want to really build on what I created this season. So I think that will help.
Looking back on 2022, any number of highlights, a couple of championship hundreds, of course. The one against Surrey. And that got you a lot of attention. You score runs against Surrey. I think it's probably the same for anybody. You score runs against Surrey, then national papers start to take an interest, and you did a few interviews. Must have been quite nice in a sense, but strange?
Not really. I mean, I think with all the work, it was nice, but I don't think it was too strange. I mean, the work I put in, especially leading up to that September, I really believe I improved over the season. So the second half of the season was better than the first. I learned from my mistakes in the first half. I put more specific training in. So I think I was. It didn't come as a surprise. The only thing was obviously they had a good attack, and they had some high quality bowling. So to do it against that attack was probably the most pleasing thing from a confidence point of view. It was obviously nice and a great day out. But it is nice to get that recognition. I think especially as a young opener in a county that potentially doesn't get the same recognition as other counties. It is nice to get that same recognition. So it was a good feeling, but I think the most satisfying thing about that was who it was against and the type of bowling which I can take forward.
When I say strange, I'm sure you adapt. I know you adapted to it as you do, but it was just the fact that suddenly, if it had been on the way you played against almost any other county, you wouldn't have had quite the sort of attention. It is Surrey is a big thing, isn't it?
It is. It is actually. Yeah. I think they're obviously they won the county championship, so it goes to show. Them and Hampshire for me were the two best bowling attacks in the country, and they obviously came first and second. And so to get runs against both of them was important for me. But actually, and I've said this on quite a few occasions, my most important innings for me, my best innings was the Surrey game at the Oval. Which might come to surprise. I got 51, but for me that did so much for my confidence to the attack. But also, I obviously got hit quite a few times. Had to show a lot of resilience and dig in. Which for me at the time, I remember being quite. You're in an uncomfortable situation, aren't you? And had to kind of show some character and fight. And I think for me, the confidence I got from that innings helped the 145 and the runs against Hampshire and so on and so forth, and the runs against Kent, for example. I think after that game, I look back and I don't think it's going to get much harder than that in county cricket. So that was a real turning point, I think, for me.
Very interesting to hear you say that, because I remember talking to John Sadler in the immediate aftermath of that on that Saturday evening at the Oval, and we were both saying that was an innings of courage, of skill, and it was a big step for you personally on your development. You could see that even at the time. So to hear you describe that is really interesting. It was an exceptional
Thank you.
innings.
Cheers, thank you.
Obviously, you talk about championship hundreds, but there was also that List A 100, the one up at Blackpool, your maiden List A, which I don't think I've ever seen you play a lot better than that. From the point of view of expressing yourself, if you like, which is the sort of the modern way of talking about it. For somebody who was keen not to be pigeonholed just as a red ball player, that must have been very satisfying to go out and prove that you could play like that in white ball.
Yeah, I think so, and I think for me. I think for me that before that game was quite important. I think we were already out of the competition, and Lancs are obviously tough. And I said to myself on the way up to, I think it was Gus who I was travelling with, that I think this game is more of a personal challenge for me to make sure I'm on it, not just see it as a game to get by because we're out. I think for me the most satisfying thing was the strike rate and the way I went about my business with the lack of risks I took. I think a lot of it was calculated and not too risky, and I think for me, that's the kind of cricket I want to play in the 50-over format. Someone that can obviously bat long, but bat a good tempo without making too many risks. I think my game is expanded to the point where I've got a few more shots now, so I can afford to be a bit more calculated. But yeah, I think definitely not being pigeonholed as a rebel player, that 100 definitely helps that case. And weirdly enough, the 100 in the second team I got in the in the T20 format was another thing. I know it was second team cricket, but again, it's just a sign that I can give more in white ball cricket. So hopefully I can build on that next year.
It was very interesting, the 100 up at Blackpool. I'm not sure if you remember this, but when we had a chat afterwards on the outfield post-match interview, and I think the first thing you said to me was, I didn't go mad, did I? And for me, one of the great hallmarks of that innings was the tempo.
Yeah.
And for me, that was that just sort of proved the point. And it must have been a big help to have Ricardo Vasconcelos at the other end, because you had that big opening partnership, and to have somebody like that with that experience, again, it's all part of the process, isn't it? The learning process.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think there's been times throughout this season I've batted with people like Vasco, but also Keezy and Procky, and it's weird, different players you have different chats in the middle with, and you get different learning points from each one of them. It's not necessarily the same points, and I've enjoyed batting with a few of these batters this year, just kind of working as a team. So that really helps. But I've enjoyed the different chats we've had. So for example, with Rob Keogh, I might have different conversations than Luke Proctor, and I might learn different things off Rob than I do with Luke. So it's good to stay communicating with your batting partners, and it's definitely helped, I think, the team.
And there was so much, obviously, to look back on and to enjoy from 2022. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that being named Media Player of the Year was necessarily the hugest honour that you can imagine, but just to hear at that evening a lot talked about your performances, that must have been nice.
Yeah, it was nice. From yourself and from other people, came up to me. That was obviously nice. And I think some people were saying, obviously, because I'm so young, it's nice to have started to get some performances in the top division. But I'm not a character that gets too carried away. I've still got my own points to prove. If I could put it that way, at the end of the season for different reasons. I've got a few edges I want to sharpen for the next season, to try and get higher recognition for the next season, and try and really show everyone what I really can do on a consistent basis next year. So I'm not going to get too carried away. I think I know deep down what I can do. It's about now having the winter to prove that I can do that on a consistent basis. It's not a one-season wonder. It's I can do that week in, week out, and put Northants in winning positions, because I think there's times which I look back and I'm still hurting from a few losses, and I really want to put that right next year.
On a slightly different tack, you're an ambassador for Chance to Shine, and we saw you went down to the Oval recently and had a tour around there. It was all tied in with Black History Month.
Yeah.
How important is it for you to get involved in things like that? As you made the point, I think in the interview you did at the time, that obviously from having an Afro-Caribbean background, And there's so much talk at the moment about trying to get communities, Afro-Caribbean, South Asian, all different communities, more involved, more included in English cricket.
Yeah.
How conscious are you of basically being a role model and being somebody that can actually make a difference?
Yeah, I think that has definitely crossed my mind, and people have, tried to help me along the way with that, with different ways I can help. And Chance to Shine is a massive thing. The ACE program and Chance to Shine in that case was something that I'm really happy to be a part of. I think as a young kid who came into the sport, there wasn't many, black kids or Afro-Caribbean kids in any circle I really played cricket in, whether it was school or county or club. And I think having those role models, I said in that interview, in other sports are massive, getting people from different cultural backgrounds into the sport. So I think, that is definitely something in the back of my mind. Obviously, I want to master my game first, but I think the more I go up the levels and try and become more established, the more I want to help the younger generation or younger players, for whatever reason, try and get into the sport more. Because I remember at 7 years old meeting my idol, Dwayne Bravo. He gave me a shirt, and that really made me fall in love with the game. And I remember having that feeling as a 7-year-old kid. That really made, I've still got his shirts hanging up on my wall now at home. So I think if I can have that impact on one person, that really would help. But also, I just think it's obviously I'm biased, but it's such a great sport. It's not nice to hear some people pigeonhole it as to a sport for certain people or for a certain class when it's not that's not the case. So what Chance to Shine are doing in the ACE program is phenomenal, and hopefully that can just keep building, because we've seen with the women's game how it's built over the last few years. I really hope that this can really develop and expand, because it's only going to improve the game for different reasons.
And it's so important. And again, someone who's coming into the game like yourself and has already made a mark, you can't underestimate the importance of family and the sacrifices and the amount of graft and the number of miles and the amount of taxi driving that parents have to do. And I know, we've spoken about it before, that how grateful you are for what your family have done for you to get you this far.
Yeah, I can't really, I've said it so many times, I can't really put it into words, to be honest. I think I've said this actually to a few people that, it's all good having the talent and stuff, but you need people there to support you. And my parents, I don't know what to say, I can't repay for what they've done. They've given their son a childhood dream of playing professional cricket. My dad's thrown 100 million balls at me at whatever time, 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. He's never said no to going to the nets.
And some of them with a sidearm throw that you bought him for Christmas, is that right?
Yeah. That's true. I mean, I think he wasn't too impressed with it, but I can't really speak highly enough of him. The amount of balls he's thrown at me is literally the only reason why I'm a professional cricketer. Well, not the only, but one of the only reasons I'm a professional cricketer. Without his support, I wouldn't be a professional cricketer. That's a fact. And my mum, driving me up and down the country and getting sponsors at 10 years old to get kit. It's really important. But I think, it's something that, it might not be your parents, but you need that support network behind you. At 10 years old, you're not going to have people driving you around the country. No matter how good you are, you need your parents there or someone there. And they've really been phenomenal. And even now, if I want to go and have a hit with my dad, he's still got it, still competitive and tries to get me out. And my mum still, it might not be now driving me up and down the country, but it might be, coming over and sorting out the washing machine over the weekend or whatever that is. I still need her just as much as ever. So it's really important for me.
We're talking about champagne moments of the season, and some of them obviously are obvious ones, and the innings of yours that we've already talked about. But yeah. I have to say, one of the images from the season I shall always remember was on the last afternoon at Edgbaston in that championship match that was just dying the death. To see you steaming in with the third new ball, was it, from the city end with the floodlights on? I thought, I know somebody who's hugely enjoying this. That must have been a great moment.
It was. I think I got my wicket here at the start of the year against, I think it was Tom Lace.
Tom Lace.
Yeah, I got caught and bowled.
Good one as well.
I got someone out.
Jack Lean caught behind. Good catch standing up, Adam Ross.
Yeah, there we go. So that was obviously the season before the first game. And obviously there's a lot of lads, a lot of chat flying around saying how fluky it was. And I was begging Vasco to give me the ball that afternoon. And no one was interested because obviously it was a game. And Sam Hain was batting, and I just thought this was a great opportunity to get a wicket. And I did enjoy it. It's weird. I mean, no matter what the challenge is, I just always like to get involved. But yeah, no, I've got a couple of screen records of a couple of deliveries I bowled, so I'm pretty happy with it. But yeah, it's good to turn my over sometimes. But hopefully, in the white ball format, I can get a bowl, more seriously next year with the keeper up, middle overs and stuff. I can try and work on that over the winter, just to add another string to my bow. But yeah, as many ways as I can be three-dimensional, I'm all for it.
Finally, let's talk next steps. Obviously, a few of us were a bit disappointed you didn't get the Alliance shout this winter. I'm sure you probably were as well. But where do you see things going? I mean, are there opportunities possibly to get some recognition before the end of this winter?
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, obviously, I was just I'm naturally disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I'm a very competitive person, very hungry person. But I think, naturally that's. I've had a couple of those same feelings as a kid, Bunbury festivals and Super 4 festivals, and they've only generally made me more motivated. So, hopefully next year, that's one of the edges I was talking about sharpening, really trying to prove a point that, I want to be that man. I know there's a lot of chat about opening batters at the minute, and I want to be the future England opener for the next however many years. I want to be that man. So I get, it might have to be I do more in Division 1 attack, and I'm happy to do that. But in terms of this winter, I can't answer that. I'm not sure. It's out of my hands, but I'm due to go to Australia to play grade cricket to prepare for next season. But I think the fixture list comes out soon, and I can't wait to see the Surreys and the Lancashires and the Warwickshires or whoever that may be, because I want to play against the best, and I want next year to be an even better year. To hopefully, never know, get a phone call this time next year. Who knows? But that's definitely something I'm looking to cement next year.
Let's hope so. Emilio, thanks very much.
Cheers, Raddis. Thank you.